Welcome to another edition of the Itinerant Preacher Podcast. Today we are going to continue to look at the creation account in Genesis 1 through 3 and talk about three binary motifs that initially occur in the creation account but that have a recurring ongoing presence as themes throughout the entire Bible. The three themes I want to talk about today are order versus chaos, light versus darkness, and good versus evil. Genesis 1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty darkness was over the surface of the deep." The English Standard Version says the earth was without form and void. The Hebrew term often translated as void is tahu wabohu, which conveys a sense of chaos and emptiness. Before creation, there was chaos and there was darkness. Afterwards, there's order and light, with the stars and the planets following the rules of physics and time and space. In Job 38, God speaks to Job, asking him about three famous constellations. He says, "Can you bind the shades of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Can you bring forth the constellations in their seasons, or lead out the bear with her cubs? Do you know the laws of the heavens?" As we talked about in our last episode, he then creates order by drawing boundaries between the atmosphere and the waters and the land and the sea, giving the world its natural orders of propagation and biology. He gives the first man and woman a place of order in which to live, with the Garden of Eden. He then gives them the instruction that they were to work it and keep it, with the implied goal that their tending of the garden was to keep it in order. Satan tries to upend the relation or order between God and the humans by confronting Eve and putting doubt in her mind by saying, "Did God really say that about eating from the tree?" This temptation brings about huge chaos by changing the relationship between man and God and man and woman. The peace and tranquility that was present in the garden is now shattered, and mankind can no longer walk in the presence with God because of the separation of the sin. His life is now transformed into one of chaos and stress as he strives against Satan, God, and his own fellow man. This was his choice, not God's, for we know that God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. The next motif is the theme of light versus darkness. Besides the physical light, which emanates from the sun and stars, which delineates day from night, light is also associated in the Bible with goodness. When God said, "Let there be light," he said it was good. Psalm 27 verse 1 says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" Jesus himself said that he was the light of the world and that whoever followed him would never walk in darkness, but would have the light of life. Believers were also exhorted to let their light shine before others, so that others would see their good deeds and glorify the Father in heaven. In Revelation, in describing the New Jerusalem, John states that the city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. This is in direct juxtaposition of the darkness that represents the separation from God that will be experienced in the afterlife. Jesus said that many will come from east and west and recline at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven, while the sons of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness, in that place where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Darkness often symbolizes evil, sin, and moral corruption in the Bible. John says this is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people loved the darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light, and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. Darkness can also represent spiritual blindness or ignorance. 1 John says, "This is the message we've heard from him and declared to you. God is light. In him is no darkness at all. If we claim to have fellowship with him and yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not live out the truth." The third motif is the one between good and evil. After every single individual creation, God proclaimed that it was good. But after he made man and woman, he proclaimed that it was very good. But besides having a complimentary adjective describing the things he was creating, This term good is also used as a synonym for righteousness and rightfulness, as opposed to unrighteousness and evil. Of all the trees in the garden, they were not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This means that evil existed before the world began, and suggests that humans, if they had not eaten of that tree, would have been oblivious to evil. Satan, embodied in the serpent, is seen as evil. In Genesis 3, he was described as crafty and deceiving. Jesus describes his nature even more forcefully in John 8, when he says to the Pharisees, "You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth. There is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies." The murdering and the lying traits of the devil emphasize his evil nature, with deception being his key tactic to lure humans down evil paths. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 11 that he even masquerades as an angel of light, and Peter warns that the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. God, on the other hand, is seen as pure goodness. James says that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. The Old Testament prophet Nahum says, "The Lord is good, a refuge in times of trouble. He cares for those who trust in him." 1 Chronicles 16:34 says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever." These three opposing motifs of order versus chaos, light versus dark, and good versus evil not only appear in the creation account, but are pivotal themes for the entire Bible and directly impact our daily lives. The first two of these themes do not actually deal with opposing forces. Chaos is not a force. Darkness is not a force. Chaos and darkness are both what happens in the absence of order and light. Let me give you an illustration using heat that might be easier to understand. How do you go about making something colder? Do you add more cold? No, you can't add more cold, because cold is not even a force or an energy. You take away the heat source, and that results in something getting colder. Similarly, you take away the force and the energy that produces order, and you end up with chaos. The same could be true for light. All that is needed for darkness is simply to remove the light. This illustrates a profound truth and a great illustration for our own personal lives. It is true that we oftentimes face two opposing choices: to do right or wrong, to help or to hurt, to serve others or to serve ourselves. But there is another choice that sometimes leads, actually, I won't say more than sometimes, I will say all the time, that leads to chaos, evil, and destruction. And that choice is to do nothing at all. Let's take the basic illustration of house cleaning. If you put forth no effort whatsoever to clean and reorganize your house, and you basically do nothing except just live in your house, what happens? Chaos reigns and you have an unkempt house. It just happens without you doing a single thing. What was once orderly and clean devolves into disorganization and dirt. The same goes for your body. If you don't eat well, if you don't work out, if you basically do nothing but just survive from one day to the next, that is a sure recipe for poor health. We all know this. We know that we have to put good fuel in our bodies, and we know that we need to exercise. But the temptation is to get busy, to not exert the effort that it takes to eat right or to work out, and hence we do nothing about it. What is going to happen over time? We'll get diseases, we'll have injuries that we shouldn't have, or we'll just downright feel exhausted and feel bad. So instead of doing nothing, I want you to use this podcast today as a motivation to do something in some aspect of your life that needs attention. Something is better than nothing. If you say you don't have time to clean, At least pick up a few things in a room in the house or in your car. If you say you don't have time to work out or go to the gym, do a few push-ups or calisthenics on the floor of your room before you go to bed. If you say you don't have time to sit down and study the Bible, then do nothing but read a single verse on your phone and then meditate on it. The effort to do something will break the bonds of inertia and get the ball rolling toward your final goals. At the very least, it's going to motivate you to do something more tomorrow. We have to exert effort in order to keep chaos and darkness from reigning in our lives. As far as the third theme of good versus evil, well, that one is much more complex. Is evil simply the absence of God, like chaos is the absence of order, or darkness the absence of light? Or is evil a force all its own? According to Thomas Aquinas, he said, good can exist without evil, whereas evil cannot exist without good. Is that true? We're going to have to tackle that complex question on the next episode. That is all for today, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Itinerant Preacher. Once again, I encourage you to share this YouTube channel with your friends. We will see you next time on The Itinerant Preacher.